Do you know what one of the quietest yet most telling migrations of our time is? It's not happening at a border. It's happening at an airport departure gate. Last year, over 10 million Americans made a choice. They chose to build their lives outside of America, but here's the detail that should make us all pause. Over 90% of them have a university degree. Think about that. The people who were raised in the system, who studied it, who succeeded in it, are now the very first ones to leave. They are packing their bags and quietly walking away from a version of America they no longer recognize. The American dream used to be a simple promise. Work hard, buy a little house, raise a family in peace. But that quiet dream now feels like it requires a miracle and a mountain of debt. Rent climbs faster than a paycheck. A trip to the grocery store feels more expensive than a dinner out in Europe, and the quiet hum of anxiety about losing your job has replaced the feeling of freedom. So, what is happening? What is causing some of our brightest, most educated people to give up on the one dream the entire world once envied? Today, we're going to explore the 5 unspoken reasons why the American dream is being traded for a one-way ticket out. And the first reason is one I think we all feel in our bones. Do you remember the day you graduated? Holding that diploma in your hands, your parents looking at you with those proud, teary eyes. The feeling that the future was finally yours, that you'd made it. Now, fast forward 10, maybe 15 years. You're standing in a rental apartment, looking at a notice from your landlord. The rent is going up again. And you do the math in your head, and you realize that one single payment is devouring a huge piece of your life. The average American with a bachelor's degree earns around $65,000 a year. On paper, it sounds fine. But in the reality of American life, that number evaporates. In cities like Austin, Seattle, or San Francisco, a decent apartment can cost $3,000, even $4,000 a month. Now, add in health insurance, taxes, gas, and food, and suddenly your entire salary is gone before you even have a chance to dream about a vacation. And that's when the calculation begins. It starts quietly with a late-night Google search. Cost of living in Lisbon, retiring in Mexico, remote jobs from abroad. And what they discover is a quiet revelation. They see that for $2,000 a month in Portugal, you can live a life with fresh seafood and a bottle of wine at dinner. Meanwhile, in America, $2,000 barely covers your car payment and insurance. For generations, we've prided ourselves on being practical. But when reality itself stops making sense, the educated are the first to notice. They don't protest. They don't scream. They just quietly move their savings to an international bank and book a flight. A recent survey of American expats was crystal clear. 73% of them said the number one reason they left was the cost of living. It wasn't politics. It wasn't culture. It was simple, cold, hard math. They couldn't afford to live in the very economy they helped build. There's an old saying, in America, you work to live. But lately, it feels like that's been rewritten. In America, you work to afford to keep working. When an engineer or a teacher has to choose between staying in America to struggle or moving abroad to live, the choice becomes painfully obvious. A temporary passport starts to look a lot better than a 30-year mortgage. The trap isn't poverty. It's the poverty of a life. You have a job but no time. You make money but you can't sleep. And you're haunted by a quiet, nagging question. If I'm this educated and I work this hard, why am I still counting every penny at the grocery store? So when the best and the brightest leave, they're not running away from America. They're running away from the cost of America. And they leave behind a question that hangs in the air. If the people who understand the system best are cashing out, what does that say about the dream we're all still chasing? But the cost of living is just the entry fee. The true price is paid in something much deeper. It's paid in our time, in our energy, in our very spirit. Have you noticed it? Everyone in America is tired, but everyone says they're fine. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, hidden behind a forced smile and a boast about being busy. One statistic made me stop and just breathe. 56% of college-educated Americans say they feel completely burned out at least once a year. That's not a number. That's a quiet, nationwide epidemic of fatigue. We've built an economy where rest feels like a sin. Working 60 hours a week is normal. Answering emails at midnight is a sign of professionalism. We've turned busyness into a badge of honor. And the educated, the ones who believe that hard work was the secret to success, have become the most loyal victims of that belief. You have the degree. You have the good job. But you also have the sleeping pills, the third cup of coffee, and the constant, nagging feeling that if you take just one day off, you'll fall behind forever. Americans aren't leaving because they hate their country. They're leaving because they just want to eat lunch without feeling guilty. Meanwhile, in many parts of Europe, people work hundreds of hours less per year for a comparable standard of living. In France, taking a 2-week summer vacation is a human right. In America, you take 2 weeks off and you worry you'll be replaced. No one is holding a gun to your head, telling you to work yourself into the ground. But the system is designed to reward you if you do. An engineer who moved to Thailand said it best. I still work for an American company. I just got my sleep back. When your brightest minds start leaving, not for a bigger paycheck, but for more time, the problem is no longer just economic. It's cultural. It's a burnout culture that has mistaken productivity for a meaningful life. You pay a mortgage on a house you're never in. You have children you're too tired to play with. You have a life, You're just too busy trying to keep up with it. Maybe that's why they're leaving. They're not fleeing the country. They're fleeing a schedule that has no pause button. And when a nation starts losing the people who just want to be able to breathe, that's no longer an economic crisis. That's a spiritual one. But behind the exhaustion, and behind the financial strain, lies a deeper, more quiet fear. It's not just the fear of falling behind. It's the fear of losing your way. Think about it. When was the last time you felt a simple, uncomplicated sense of pride in the direction our country is headed? Not a loud, flag-waving pride, but a quiet confidence. A belief that this is a good place to build a life, to dream, to start over. For many, that feeling has been replaced by a quiet unease. A recent Pew Research poll found that only a quarter of Americans believe the American dream is still within reach. That means 3 out of every 4 people, including the ones who did everything right, are questioning the very promise that defined this nation. And when that trust begins to fade, the educated are the first to notice. They're not leaving over a single policy or politician. They're leaving because they look at their country in the mirror and they no longer recognize its reflection. Being American used to mean having the freedom to think for yourself. Now, it often feels like you have to choose a team. The news tells you who to be angry at. Conversations become debates to be won, not understood. And for the people in the middle, the ones who just want to be rational, it's exhausting. A professor who moved to the Netherlands told a reporter, "I didn't leave America because I hate it. I left because I don't understand it anymore." Here, he said, people argue to find common ground. At home, we argue to win. That is the quiet tragedy. We were raised to believe that reason and hard work would lead to a good life. But now, it feels like success is defined by your ability to disconnect, to escape the constant noise, the stress, the outrage. When people no longer recognize the identity of the place they call home, they will go in search of a new one somewhere else. In Lisbon, they find peace. In Copenhagen, they find community. In Bangkok, they find that a smile doesn't have a political agenda. The world once dreamed of being like America. Now, it seems many Americans dream of being like the world. It's a bitter irony. But when belief wavers, the smart ones don't wait for the ship to sink. They just quietly pack their bags and find a lifeboat. So when the money doesn't make sense, when the work culture drains your soul, and when the national conversation feels broken, there's only one thing left to hold on to: faith in the future. But what happens when that begins to fade too? What's scarier than being poor? It's being smart enough to see that tomorrow might not be better than today. A recent Gallup poll delivered a heartbreaking statistic. Only 18% of Americans believe their children will have a better life than they did. That is a record low. And it's a whisper that is louder than any political speech. It's the quiet fear you see in the eyes of a father looking at his retirement account. It's the silence at the dinner table when a child asks if they'll ever be able to afford a house in their hometown. It's the feeling that the game is rigged. And this is the final reason. It's not about anger. It's about mathematics. The educated are looking at the next 20 years, at the promises of Social Security and healthcare, and they are making a calculated bet. They no longer believe the system will be there for them when they need it. They're not tax evaders. They're just optimizers. A designer moves to Costa Rica where life is affordable. An engineer moves to Portugal where the tax rate for expats is a fraction of what it is at home, and healthcare is nearly free. They aren't breaking the rules. They're just playing a different game, a global one. And other countries are welcoming them with open arms. Golden visas, retirement programs, digital nomad passes. It's as if the world is putting up a sign that says, "We know you're tired. Come here." It's sunny, the internet is fast, and life is good. This isn't about betrayal. It's about self-preservation. It's a quiet, rational exodus. And each one-way ticket is a vote of no confidence. Not in America's past, but in its future. So, is the American dream dead? Or has it just moved to a cheaper, quieter neighborhood where people still believe that tomorrow is worth waking up for? Maybe the dream isn't gone. Maybe it's just working remotely. Perhaps the American dream is no longer a place. Maybe it's just an idea again. The idea of waking up without the crushing weight of financial anxiety. The idea of having dinner with your family without checking your work email. The idea of living a quiet, peaceful life. And if that dream is now alive and well in another country, the only question left is, would you go